Imagine this. You're a battle-hardened EMT, knee-deep in the chaos of a Bronx winter night. Sirens wailing like banshees in your ears. You've seen it all. Junkies foaming in subway cars. Heart attacks mid-crosswalk. Kids caught in gang crossfire. But nothing prepares you for the moment when the woman you've mourned as a traitor for 35 years stares up at you from a deathbed. Her eyes screaming secrets you buried deeper than your own grief. That's me, Alex Thompson. And in that frozen heartbeat, as I leaned over her fevered face to check her pupils, my world didn't just crack. It shattered like a defibrillator jolt straight to the soul, ribs snapping under the voltage of pure, unfiltered shock. God, if you'd been there, you'd have felt it too. The air thickening, time grinding to a halt, every nerve-ending firing like a faulty wire in a rain-soaked socket. What would you do if the ghost of your biggest regret clawed its way back from the grave? Not to haunt, but to save you. To hand you a key to a door you'd nailed shut decades ago, rusted and splintered from neglect. It hit harder than the first zap from those paddles, the kind that arches a body off the gurney like it's possessed, leaving burn marks on your gloves and your conscience. I'm talking about the raw thud in your chest when you realize the patient under your hands isn't just another statistic. She's her. Sarah. My Sarah. The one whose laughter used to echo through our cramped Queens walk-up like sunlight piercing Gotham fog, chasing away the shadows of double shifts and eviction notices. 35 years. That's how long it's been since I last saw that smile. Bright, unscarred, framed by the light blue coat we snagged on a rainy afternoon impulse buy, twirling her under Central Park's skeletal oaks while Wonderwall blasted from a boombox some kid had wheeled by on a rusty bike, the bass thumping against the patter of drizzle on. Yeah, we were that couple. Young, dumb, dreaming big in a city that chews dreams like cheap gum and spits out the wrappers, leaving you sticky and hollow.
The photo in my battered wallet faded to sepia whispers, edges curled from too many late-night stares under the harsh glow of a single bulb, fingers tracing her outline like braille for the blind.
But in here, Plas, tap chest slowly, voice softening. She's etched eternal. 27, radiant, whispering promises against my neck that we'd beat the odds, build a family unbreakable as the Brooklyn Bridge, with its cables humming like lullabies in the wind off the East River. We talked about it all. Picnics in Prospect Park, teaching the kids to ride bikes down the FDR Drive bike path, holidays with stockings stuffed by the fireplace we'd improvise from a space heater and fairy lights. Dreams so vivid they hurt when reality clawed them away. And now, here she was, sprawled on a sagging cot in a godforsaken Bronx one-room hellhole. The kind where roaches throw parties on the walls and the heat kicks out mid-January blizzard, leaving frost patterns on the inside of the windows like cruel lacework. Age and whatever demons she'd wrestled in the shadows had carved her down to bone and shadow. Cheeks hollowed like forgotten canyons in the Nevada Badlands. Skin stretched thin over veins that pulsed like fading Morse code. Each beat a desperate SOS no one had answered. Unrecognizable? Hell, she was a stranger wearing my wife's face. A cruel masquerade that twisted the knife deeper with every labored breath. But those eyes, oh, those ice blue eyes, sharp as Hudson River slush melting under a hesitant dawn sun, catching flecks of gold from the grimy streetlight filtering through cracked blinds. They locked onto mine, unblinking, pleading in that silent language we'd invented over shared bodega coffees and fire escape sunsets, where the city sprawled below like a glittering beast, indifferent to our whispers. Lev Weds, needed, just recognition. Like she'd been waiting in this purgatory, counting the cracks in the ceiling, timing her exit to coincide with my unlikely arrival. Like fate, that cruel bastard with a twisted sense of humor, had finally cashed in my ticket, stained with coffee rings and tear smudges from all those unanswered prayers. You ever get that bone-deep ache? The one where your job's ghosts don't just tag along. They move in, unpacking their bags in the corners of your mind, whispering reminder. Retirement crossed my mind a million times, staring at the ceiling fan in my empty Queens apartment, the one that ticks like a countdown clock, each rotation mocking the years slipping away like sand through calloused fingers. Why grind on? Because out on these calls, in the red-blue strobe of the rig slicing through the night like a scalpel, you're vital, a lifeline in the storm, the thin blue line between chaos and a second chance. Back home, bitter laugh, your wallpaper. Fading fast, patterns blurring into irrelevance. Day in, day out, you stitch up strangers' horrors, bullet holes weeping crimson stories, shattered bones grinding like gravel under tires, shattered lives pieced together with tape and hope, and somehow, your own wounds crust over, scar tissue tough as Kevlar, hiding the rot beneath. But peel it back, raw as the day it happened, pink and pulsing, begging for air. Wherever you're streaming this from, hustling the frantic sidewalks of NYC with their honking symphonies, nursing a coffee in a Philly diner where the eggs are always over easy and the regrets extra crispy, or hunkered down in some rainy London flat with the Thames murmuring secrets outside your window. I'll bet the farm you've got your skeletons too. Those unspoken what-ifs gnawing like rats in the walls, scratching at 3 a.m. when the world's too quiet. Pause. Hit the comments. Where's this finding you? Moscow rush hour, with its ballet of babushkas and briefcases. Berlin midnight. Ghosts of the wall lingering in the U-Bahn makes it real for me. Like I'm not spilling my guts to echoes in an empty rig. I gulped air gone viscous as hot tar, coating my throat like regret, thick and unyielding, forcing me to swallow twice just to breathe. My rookie sidekick, Jake, wide-eyed kid, 24 if a day, all that millennial fire and 0 mileage on the odometer. His optimism a stark contrast to my world-weary tread. Had the EKG machine unfurled like a battle flag across her chest, leads snaking like electrodes in a Frankenstein fever dream. Alex, man, you look like you've seen the Reaper himself. Paler than a fresh OR sheet. What's up? You need to sit? His voice cut through the hum of the machine's indifferent beeps, concern creasing that baby face, untouched by the cynicism that comes from too many flatlines. I flapped a hand. Dismiss it. Focus. Don't let the kid see the fracture. Fingers grazing her forehead with the reverence of touching a relic. Burning. Slick with fever's oily sheen, like she'd been wrestling hellfire all night in some unseen ring. Sweat beading like diamonds on a pauper's brow. The room? A sensory assault that clawed at your senses. Not her signature lavender soap. That faint floral tease that used to linger on our pillows like a promise of tomorrow. Soft and inviting like spring rain on Astoria sidewalks. But a toxic cocktail. Stale General Tso's from last week's delivery congealing in a cardboard tomb. She wheezed, chest a shallow bellows rising and falling like a flag in a dying wind. But her stare, it nailed me to the spot. Vice tight as suspect cuffs in a perp walk down a precinct hallway lined with mugshots of missed chances. Left flicker of surprise. No terror widening those blues to saucers. Just that look. The one that said, "Help me end this right, Alex. Make it mean something after all the nothing." Sar. It escaped me. A ragged breath. Barely audible over the distant wail of an incoming train rattling the thin walls like bones in a grave. She nodded. So faint. Like a leaf trembling in a draft from a cracked window. But it was there. Unmistakable. A Morse code of its own. Dot dash. Yes. Affirmation. Me. Hello, she mouthed. lips cracking like parched earth under a merciless sun, each word a seismic effort. Alex! Cry soft. Her voice scraped out, raw as gravel, crunching under 18-wheelers on the Bruckner Expressway at rush hour. Like she'd been submerged, screaming bubbles into an endless black sea for decades. Lungs burning with the weight of unspoken truths. Each syllable of victory snatched from death's jaws, fragile as a soap bubble in a gale, but laced with that old fire. The one that used to light up dive bars and dance floors alike. Dispatchin' had her pegged as Martha Jenkins, 67, labored breathing. Neighbors 911, says she's been down a day, muttering nonsense. But this shell of a woman, this husk, wrapped in threadbare flannel, she was the phantom who'd ghosted our brownstone life 35 years back, bundling our 6-month-old miracle, Lily, into that same blue coat's folds, the one smelling of baby powder and fresh snow, pecking my cheek with a back in 10 milk run to the corner store. Don't burn. Gone. Poof. Into the ether of the city that swallows souls whole. NYPD's finest? They shrugged it off like a bad bet at Belmont. Wife's burnt out on the 9-to-5 grind, sir. Probably shacked up with some suit in Midtown. Kid in tow or dumped at a firehouse. Happens more than you'd think in this concrete jungle. Betrayal's bitter pill. Easier to choke down than the void of vanished what-ifs. The endless loop of why me, playing on repeat in your skull. I howled those first weeks. Primal, gut-ripping sobs that echoed off subway tiles and half-empty cars at dawn. Turning heads from bleary commuters who pretended not to see the broken man unraveling. Then, snap to. Had to. For the crib mocking me empty in the nursery. Its mobiles spinning lazy ghosts of tiny socks and stuffed bears under a nightlight's glow. Buried her. Buried us. Lived a half-life. Shifts bleeding into blackouts at corner bars where the whiskey burned less than the memories. Birthdays blurring with bar stools scarred from 1,000 tales of loss. Chuckle. Dark. Hell. I even dated once. A nurse with a laugh like broken glass. Sharp and fleeting. Who saw the void in my eyes and bolted after 2 dinners, leaving me with a bill and a business card for a therapist I never called. Who could explain a hole that size? A family-sized crater in the middle of your chest. And now, she was slipping away, right under my steady hands, on my gurney. The vinyl creaking under her weight like a confession. I was her Hail Mary, the last line of defense against the dark. Class. Subscription. Equals realistic. Weathered New York EMT, male voice in his 60s with a gritty Brooklyn accent. Gravelly, introspective tone with emotional intensity, varying from hushed whispers to passionate crescendos. The scoreboard said otherwise. Game over, long before the whistle blew, the crowd long gone from the stands. I need to cry, gasping. She rasped, lids fluttering like trapped moths battering against a porch light. Desperate for the flame. Jake chimed in, all protocol and wide-eyed urgency. EKGs lighting up arrhythmia, Chief. Acute as they come, irregular as a drunk's heartbeat. Hypotensive stat. Load and go to the bus before she codes right here. Protocol. My North Star. The rigid spine holding me upright through the storms. But my limbs. Lead. Locked in place. Muscles mutinying against the commands firing from a brain short-circuiting on overload. This wasn't a code blue. It was a life flashing before me. 35 years squeezed into one frantic pulse. A montage of missed sunrises and what could have beens demanding I dot the I's or go mad in the margins, scribbling nonsense on chart pads till my hands bled. Sarah knew. Clock ticking louder than the monitor's relentless beep, 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 each one a hammer on an anvil forging finality. She mustered a surge from some hidden reservoir, fingers clamping my glove like talons from a bird of prey. Heat searing through latex straight to my skin. A brand of urgency. Duh. Tear. Our... She... Lick off. Racking. A convulsion seized her. Fragile frame bucking like a storm-tossed dinghy in the Atlantic's fury. Ribs heaving against the leads like prisoners rattling bars. Breath stolen in ragged thefts. She jabbed a quivering digit at the nightstand. Battle-scarred particle board. Probably scavenged from a Bushwick curb on bulk trash day. Gouges telling tales of moves and misfortunes. But there. I ripped that drawer open. Hinges squealing protest like a rat caught in a trap. The sound echoing in my inside. Chaos confetti. Wadded Kleenex stained with yesterday's tears and today's blood. Blister packs gutted like spent shells from a revolver of painkillers. Empty casings of hope scattered like confetti at a funeral. And there, nestled like contraband in a smuggler's pocket, a brittle shard of yellowed paper, folded origami tight, with creases worn smooth from countless unfoldings, edges frayed from furtive fingering in the dead of night. Pencil scrawl, faint as fading hope under a dying bulb. Maple Street, Nominal 3 Apt 4B. Hope. A breadcrumb. A beacon in the fog, pointing to some sleepy hollow beyond Philly's sprawl, where the streets are lined with maples shedding leaves like regrets in autumn wind. I palmed it, sticker hammering like a jackrabbit on meth, subway thunder in my veins, drowning out the city's distant roar. Her opening salvo. After decades of silence, a lifetime of echoes. No midnight tryst with a lover's shadow. No selfish bolt into the arms of anonymity. Captive. Questing through the cracks. Or at least, outrunning the Reaper to etch a map on the back of a grocery receipt. Coordinates to a heart she'd never stopped mapping. Jake, stretcher. Now, I barked. Channeling steel I didn't feel. Voice rough as sandpaper on silk. Ambulance alchemy. We'd pump her full of miracles en route. Drips of dopamine. Jolts of juice. Anything to buy minutes from the merciless. But truth? Her gaze betrayed it. Those blues dimming like porch lights at dawn. No blaze for survival. No clawing at the edge. Just a sprint to the finish line. Tape stretched taut across a path only she could see. And Christ. She crossed it with the grace of a marathoner collapsing at the tape. Wheeling her down those groaning stairs. Each step a dirge on warped treads that sagged under our weight like weary bones. She snagged my eyes one final time. A lifeline tossed in the dark. No torment twisting her features into a mask of agony. No final plea for mercy. Just Myas, exhale. Liberation. Like sloughing iron shackles after a forced march through hell's suburbs. Feet blistered and soul scarred. Burden lifted. Hers, anyway. Poof, into the ether. Mine? Crashing down like a Times Square jumbotron in a blackout. Sparks flying. Glass shattering on the pavement below. Drawing crowds to gawk at the wreckage. My EMT gig flatlined that instant. In Bellevue's maw. ER Bay a fluorescent purgatory where the air hummed with the low drone of ventilators and the sharp tang of antiseptic mask. I scrawled the handover in my chicken scratch. Vitals tanking like a Wall Street crash. History a hasty haiku of decline. Fever spikes, irregular rhythm. Suspected sepsis from God knows what neglect. Watched her recede down the hall. Tubes snaking like IV vipers coiling around her arms. Institutional blanket a coarse shroud smelling of bleach and broken promises. But etched in my mind forever? That hand. The one that vice gripped mine 30 minutes prior. Transferring fire and finality through the barrier. Birdbone delicate, fingers like twigs in winter wind. Final punctuation on a sentence we'd left hanging for a lifetime. Her mission? Accomplished. Thread tossed into the void. a spider's silk to pull me from the edge. Jake side-eyed me in the lot, our Ford rig hulking under jaundiced lamps like a wounded beast nursing grudges, exhaust curling like cigarette smoke from a last drag. Boss, you solid? I got the wheel. Your color's gone AWOL, like you've seen a ghost or something. Greenhorn gold, ambition unscarred, horizon wide as the Jersey Turnpike. No baggage weighing down the chassis. He couldn't parse a past hemorrhaging on linoleum, cooling like spilled coffee you can't mop up. All square, kid. Brutal run is all. Kinda night that sticks. Chuckle, hollow. Voice splintered like cheap laminate under Boothio, cracking on the edges. Brutal, tri-cataclysmic, tectonic plates shifting underfoot. A resurrection to revise my epitaph. Carved in stone too soon, then curtain call eternal. Spotlight fading to black. Soul surgery with no anesthesia, or Pandora's grand opening. Evils spilling out in a whirlwind of what-ifs. I balanced on ugly cry's brink. Ambulance yard a confessional under silent strobes. Shadows dancing like accusations on the chain-link fence. Duty's drill sergeant bayed in my ear. Station bound, but that relic scorched my pocket. Vintage vellum, jaundiced as wisdom teeth yanked too late in a mouthful of rot. Dispatch chatter, unbearable white noise. Crackling like static on a bad connection. Not with this powder keg primed, fuse hissing shorter than a subway platform wait. Bronx Zephyr nipped vicious, freighted with diesel fumes from idling semis and far-off pops that could be fireworks or gunfire. City's nocturnal symphony, ambiguous as a lover's lie. Yet beneath, her echo, lavender laced with petrichor. The scent of rain on concrete after a storm, yanking me retrograde to just Alex days, pre the unbreakable Thompson, when shifts ended with her waiting on the stoop. Thermos of soup in hand, steam rising like hope. Jake, heads up. I graveled, claiming the wheel with a grip white-knuckled. Ignition key jittering like my nerves in a caffeine crash. Detour to Maple. Call back intel. Address vet. 10 mics max. Radio silence on dispatch. Capiche. Lied like a senator under oath. Veteran's velvet glove over the iron fist of necessity. Badge bending for salvation's sake. A minor sin in a ledger full of majors. Jake mid-brows. That fresh-faced furrow deepening like a first wrinkle, but dipped chin in reluctant accord. Lesson logged. Elders navigate the murk. Where maps fail, and instinct is the only GPS gridlock gauntlet. 20 through vein-clogged arteries pulsing with rush-hour rage, even at midnight. Times Square's neon vomit splashing the dash in garish greens and pinks. Highline's iron bones skeletal sentinels against the skyline's jagged teeth. Metropolis metastasized in 35 spins around the sun. Towers talons in twilight, clawing at clouds pregnant with snow. My needle fixed on one pinprick of light. Maple 13. Maple? Irony's thorn, twisting deep, sweet sap after solitary sieges against silence and solitude. Sarah no serpent in the garden. Prey then, plucked from the vine. Pilfered in the night, pinioned by chains invisible. The hush that followed her vanishing. Stakes, stratospheric. Rocketing past the Empire State into stratosphere of dread. Traffic through tender years. Bartered like black market baseball cards in hospital basements. Christ. This system's suppuration. Pus yellow and festering. A wound the city pretends is just a scar. Suburban somnolence enveloped us like a down comforter on a fever night. Arboreal avenues whispering with wind chime leaves. Colonials aglow like Norman Rockwell fever dreams under porch lights. Casting long shadows. Maple Street, Jake deciphered from the dispatch echo in his head. Brakes sighing like a sigh of relief as we ease to a halt.
Posh hood, man.
Light years from that Bronx crypt we just crawled out of. Feels like stepping into a postcard. Nailed it. Picket postcard perfection. The kind where lawns are mowed to military precision, and attics archive atrocities behind false fronts of family photos and forgotten trunks. What devours deepest in the quiet hours? Self-deceit's supper. Served cold with a side of denial. Curbside park. Pulse a war drum thundering in my temples, drowning the cricket chorus. Wrapped 4B, Heartwood Oak, stoic sand spy hole. The door a sentinel to secrets. Footfalls inside, muffled as memories. Latch snick, swinging wide on well-oiled hinges. Not the elder from the epistle I'd conjured in my mind's eye. White-haired and withered. Mid-30s Adonis, quarterback frame broad as a doorway. Mahogany gaze folding at edges with easy charm that spoke of backyard barbecues and beer league softball. Tussled waves catching the hall light like burnished copper. Roguish smile hinting at dimples earned from a lifetime of easy wins. Me at 27. Sans paunch from too many post-shift beers. Sans penance lines etching my brow like fault lines. Doppelganger from destiny's discard pile. Staring back with eyes that mirrored my own down to the flecks of gold.
Heart stuttered. A skipped beat in the rhythm. Who you huntin'? His voice casual, laced with that Philly lilt. Vowels stretched like taffy. Consonants clipped like box scores. Choke script vaporized in my throat. Lines rehearsed on the drive dissolving like
The Thompsons? Seeking Ethan. Old matter. Urgent. Ethan James Thompson. At your service. Head cock. Timbre tenured by Schuylkill chills. Gravel velvet. Smooth but substantial. Like aged bourbon meat. Your turn? You got that look. Like you drove through hell to get here. Stared. My progeny. Incarnate. Threshold framed on my ruins rubble. The doorway a portal to a life built on the bones of mine. Pizza delivery perusal. Polite but puzzled. No inkling of the bomb ticking in my briefcase. An epiphany crashed like a wave on Coney Boardwalk. This colloquy? Visceral vivisection. Carving deeper than any aortic evisceration I've witnessed on a trauma bay table. Scalpel glinting under halogens. My heir. 35 orbits around a sun that had shone on us both. Fortified frame speaking of gym memberships and good genes. Ethan James Thompson. Encore. Affable bewilder creasing his brow. Spill it. What's the story? Dad's in the kitchen if it's him you're after. Larynx locked. IV clog catastrophe choking the flow. Dad bomb? Annihilation ordinance. Too visceral. Too volatile for this picket fence politeness. Old work buddy of your old man, James. City John. Pressing legacy biz from way back. Alex Thompson. James chat? Won't take long. Nod. No alarm bells clanging. Mere manner mildness and suburban repose. Enter Uncle Alex. Pop's kitchen bound. Probably nursing his coffee like it's the elixir of life. Yielded threshold. Stepping aside with the ease of hospitality hard-coded. Assault of amnesty hit like a warm front after Arctic blast. Hearth snap crackle in the living room grate. Apple pie perfume wafting from windowsill altar. Cooling like contrition on a wire rack. Home. The archetype I'd forfeited when Sarah spirited Lily into ether, leaving me with echoes and empty drawers. Interlaced in that comfort. Treachery's filament. Thin as spider silk, but strong as steel cable. Humming with unspoken sins. The walls whispered of birthdays celebrated with balloons and bad puns. Thanksgivings with turkey carved just so. The kind of normalcy I'd chased like a fool's errand. James ascended from his chair, Sergeant Maine catching the lamplight like frost on a winter branch. Every man eroded to essence. Shoulders stooped from years of carrying invisible loads. Hands calloused from honest work. James Thompson. Pull up a chair. Looks like you've had a haul. Ethan. Cider for the gent. Fresh press from the orchard down the road. James. Ingress tentative as a first step on thin ice. Boots leaving faint mud prints on the welcome mat that read, "Home is where the heart is." Pie pass. Smells like heaven. But this ain't social. Freight from Sarah. Your Sarah. Nah, mine. Unswaddled the parcel with hands that trembled despite 40 years of steady and crises. Cross-state courier clutched like a grenade. Pristine paramedic swaddle veiling drawer duplicates. Crisp as fresh linen but heavy as lead. Nativity scrolls yellowed at edges. Adoption artifacts. Sepia scandals. Scripted in faded fountain pen. Timelines twisting like vines around a trellis of lies. Countenance. Cascaded in slow motion. Amity acidified to apprehension. Eyes widening like floodgates creaking open. Then marrow-weary malaise settling like dust after an explosion. Me bundle Ethan scan. Quick as a fox dodging hounds. Boy, rear yard, doggo din. Methinks the mutt's at it again with the squirrels. Paternal palladium, voice steady, but laced with the tremor of thunder on the horizon. Ethan vibe vampired the tension like a sixth sense. Parka pilfered from the hook by the door. Vanished into the night with a backward glance that lingered too long. Portal thud, sealing us in like a confessional booth. James sagged into his seat, scaffold spent, the chair groaning sympathy. Her spouse? The one from the stories we buried deep? Affirm. Alex. Siren chaser. Badge number etched in my soul. Eyed her last. Dawn's dirge in a Bronx back room. Address bequeathed, like a last will. Pre-finale fade. Voice steady, but inside. Storm surge. Docks untouched on the oak expanse. Fingers hovering like they might burn. Swaddle scrutiny. Sepulchral stare fixed on the fabric. As if it held the face of God or the devil. Hunted him. Eons. Through all the moves, the Christmases, the quiet mornings with pancakes flipping. Each infernal tick. Every heartbeat a hunt. Every breath a prayer you didn't know you were part of. James' visage vaulted then, quaking like aspen in gale. Shoulders shuddering under an invisible yoke. Muted male maelstrom. Forged floods of furtive, forlorn spilling silent. Tears tracing tracks down cheeks weathered by wind and worry. No fiends, Alex. Us? Barren fields. Nothing but tumbleweeds and heartache. Triad of terminations. Each twist a torment tango. Doctors shaking heads like metronomes of mercy. Then Foreman George. Realtor Raja with a Rolodex of regrets. Whispers in the break room haze. Boy Bounty. Frail fledgling from the nest, but flyer with the right wind. Falsify as familial favor. Papers pristine. False flag from the jump. Maternal maraud in the maternity ward. Paternal phantom probe across precincts. Sibling shade cast long and lonely. The cry. Building. Voice breaking on the edges. Sib. Cosmos canted on its axis. Stars scattering like pins in a bowling alley strike. Twin. The word hung. Heavy as a heartbeat skipped. George Guild the lily. Lass. Hope. MICU nadir. Lights dimming before they ever brightened. Lad your legacy lottery. Handed over like a winning ticket in a game rigged from the draw. Ethan christened in holy water and hushed bribes. Nurtured noble through scraped knees and school plays. Our orbit. Alex. Center of gravity we didn't earn but clung to like lifelines. Visage vet in the lamplight. Nil nefarious. No shadows of the snake oil salesman. Despo dad. Ensnared in entrepreneur's entanglement. Neonatal noir from the 90s hush at Philly General's Undercroft, where deals were done in dim-lit lounges and desperation was currency. Lustrous legacy, lavished on my lifted legacy, with bedtime stories and bike rides. 35 years of genuine gold poured into a vessel stolen from my forge. But verbiage, vacuum sucking the air from the room. Post-pain phantom flickering, delirium delusion from a deathbed fever. Viscera vortex churning, demanding anchor. James, fullization. Fullization. For progeny, for patriarch, genome gambit. Now, swab. Ship. Brass untarnished till truth tethered, where this all crumbles to dust. Langry, firm, but edged with plea, petrified. Optics orbicular as badge brandish in a raid gone wrong. Quarters contracted around us. Pastry perfume putrid now. Turning stomach like curdled milk. Doubt my dirge. Post-purge. After all the quiet confessions to the dark. Timber fractured. Ire absent. Incised deep. A wound reopened. Paternal pad on phantom cheek. The air between us thick with it. Acquiesce. Languid. Licked clean of fight. Agreed.
Offspring's oracle. The one truth we can't fake.
Cabinet cash. Consort kept him for every health hiccup. Hypochondriac haunt to the end. Conjoined quest then. Let's carve the stone. Portal creak from the back. Ethan premature as a summer storm. Optics orbiting frantic. Duo to triad in a blink. Schuylkill smog density choking the space. Pops? Turmoil thick as chowder in here. Intruder with the face like he's seen a bad bet pay off. Docs discerned on the table like evidence in a lineup. James's jowls juiced crimson under the pendant light. Atmosphere arced. Pre-plunge buzz humming in my ears like tinnitus after a blast. Inhale abyssal. Lungs filling with the weight of worlds. No vendetta. No blade drawn in the kitchen calm. Verge. Veracity or void. The razor's edge where families fracture or fuse. Ethan. Timbre tectonic. Ground shifting under words. Sarah Reynolds Sentinel. Just a Trix guardian who gave you breath and broke her own. Your Genesis guardian. Demise dawns last week in a city that ate her alive. Pursuit perpetual. Maps drawn in margins of stolen years. Table traverse slow. Genesis glyphs, sliding like sacraments. Sarah's scrawl a sacrament in sepia. Chronology clarion, kin, scripted in faded ink that smelled faintly of vanilla and vanishing. Mandible marooned midair, jaw unhinged. James word pivot sharp. Pops. Pandemonium. This guy's spinning yarns from yellowed paper. What the hell's the punchline? Verity, lad. James murmured, specter soft as fog on the Delaware. Infant intercept in a ward's whisper. Ingress into our empty nest. Idolize akin arterial from day one. Concealed catacomb deep. Eviction existential. The fear that maimed us fools. Drawer dive frantic. Kit yank from the depths. 23andMe sleek sentinel. Sterile summons in a box no bigger than a deck of cards. Let. Corroboration crave he does. Essay. Assurance absolute, or it's all ash in the wind. Ethan's facade folded. Baffled to blaze instantaneous. Face flushing like a flare in fog. Assay. Implying he. Digit daggered my direction. Thorax tempest rising. Chest heaving like bellows at a forge. Biological begetter crashing the gate, and you cognizant all along. Pi patriarch parades with flapjacks at dawn. Diamond dust diamonds under the tree. You knew I was appropriated. Bartered like baseball cards in a back alley deal. Lexim lingered, lethal as lead shot, poisoning the air. James lunged, tentative, hand outstretched like a peace offering. Ethan evaded sharp,
elbow clipping the cider chalice crashed. Illusion implosion in slow motion. Glass shattering on tile, like our fragile fictions. Cider cascade carpeting the floor in sticky amber pools that reflected the light like spilled secrets.
Temporal trigger now. After all the found you in a basket bedtime baloney. Him materializing like a bad sequel. Deity pops. Fabrication full spectrum. Cradle chapel fable. Fairy tale fraud from frame one. Orbs. My orbs. You are. Validate it. Or vanish. Vial. Voila.
On the spot.
Null nexus. Nexus nix. Doors that way.
All?
Apocalypse now. World rewritten in wet ink. Fade to falter. Juvenile jagged edge honing to heartbreak. Voice veering from venom to vulnerability. Palms palpitated as packet parted with a rip like tearing flesh from bone. Triad applicators laid out on the table. Patriarch, progeny, patriarch proxy for the trinity of truth. Chamber throbbed with the Mantel mockery. Clock ticking like a bomb. Pastry phantom cooling to congealed regret. Maw agape wide, I said in triage tone, steady as stitching a wound under firelight. Quick swab, no more sting than a bee in summer. Ethan encroached, recalcitrant ramrod straight, mucosa mauled by the cotton's drag. Defiance in every defiant swab. Successor followed, soul scrape evident in the clench of his jaw. James finale. Lacrimal lanes, labyrinthine carving rivers down his cheeks. Sample surrendered like a white flag in defeat. Vials vivisected under the light, sealed with finality's click. Postage punch to priority. Express exorcism to the lab. Epiphany epochal waiting in the wings. 48 fathomless hours stretching like taffy pulled to breaking. Nocturne. Nether realms of no sleep. Ethan egress enraged. F-150 Fury peeling out the drive. Tires protesting on pavement, like a lover scorned. Panes rattling in echo. James and I marooned in rubble. Fragments fleeted into dustpan, but fissures fathomless. Cracks spiderwebbing the foundation. Abhor me, eternal. James wailed low, crown cradled in hands that had once held a boy's first steps. The dad who delivered dreams on lies. Yet you. Rhizome render. Roots ripping free, though it raises my ramble to ruin. Clavicle clasp tentative. Dyad dads in detonation domain. Bonded by the blast. Vigil we keep. Vicarious victory or vice. Together till the verdict. Duodiurnals dissolved to dirge. Sunrises bleeding into sunsets in James's den. A time capsule of Ethan's youth swarming with specters. Walls wallpapered in report cards gold-starred. Shelves sagging under trophies towering like monoliths to mediocrity made magic. Photos framed in silver. I paced the Persian rug fringes, piecing puzzles from the periphery. How'd George grease those palms slick as oil? 80s baby bazaar booming underground. Hospitals hawking unclaimables, under counters cluttered with clipboards. Desperate duos like James and his wife footing phantom fees in cash-stuffed envelopes. Signature rage-roiled subterranean. A magma of what-ifs. Broker bastard probably golfing in Boca now. Unscarred skin under sun that never sets on stolen suns. Martini in hand while my world wintered. Phone vigil became ritual. Ethan's line ring into voicemail void. Each unanswered a needle prick. James brewing coffee at dawn's first blush. Eyes hollowed as October moons. He'll bolt. To you, the blood badge. Or from us both, into the black. I clap back with the weight of witnessed wonders. Roots run deep as the Schuylkill in spring flood, man. Yours too. Watered with sweat and stories. This fertilizer fierce, not fire fatal, grows stronger in the scorch. Ping at 3017 a.m. Portal proclamation shattering the silence like glass under heel. Lab link luminous in the laptop's glow. 99.9% congruence. Paternity pristine. Probabilities piling like evidence in a slam dunk case. Forward, with fumbling fingers. Pharynx phoenix rising on a swallow of spit and salvation. Send. Stomach somersaulting into freefall. Minutes metastasized to millennia. Clock crawling on hands and knees. Headlights lance the driveway like search beams in a blackout raid. Ethan's rig. Reckless reverse into park. Gravel spitting defiance. Storm in through the front. Printout propelled like a proclamation. Phalanx firm in fist. Physiognomy, a phalanx of furore. Funeral dirge and fascination, fusing in fevered flush. Confirmed. Pummel to the gut, air punched out. Chair cradle claimed. Digits devouring data line by line. Sarah's specter summoned in spreadsheets cold as code. Patriarch prime. Pause. Profound as a prayer unanswered. James halo in the doorway. Havoc hardened but holding. Frame filling the frame like a sentinel. Mine endures, boy. Blood or bond. It's branded. Anchor dropped, steady in the swell. Ethan equator between us. Anguish arcs bending toward arterial alliances forged in fire. Incline of head. Slow as dawn. Inception of thaw. Triad tangled, tentative, tempest transmuted to tonic in the crush. Sobs serenaded the settler stones of the hearth. Pastry permafrost on the counter. But pyre beneath. Phoenix fierce. Feathers fanning flames anew. Cry. Relieved. The rune filled with it. The raw release of rivers long dammed. Mingling salt and snot. And something sacred. Recess reluctant at revelation's edge. Me the relic in the room's renewal. Ethan ensnared my gaze, pulling from periphery. Arrival amid anarchy. That's the patriarch paradigm, ain't it? Showing up when the script says scatter. Assay? Archon no more. Mere mechanism. Abyss anchor now. Tether taut. Deluge thereafter. Dam broken wide. Ethan eviscerated. Epics from me. Over midnight mugs. Sarah susurrus in sleep. Like wind chimes in a gale, son. Wild. Wondrous. Waking the neighbors. My mea culpas carved in concrete. Night. James juxtaposed his verse, voice velvet over gravel. George Gambit unmasked in unflinching detail. Whispers in the ward's waiting room. Cash for cradle. No questions asked. Signatures simple as sin. We queried quiet in the quiet hours. But quiet killed curiosity dead. Digs dissolved in a flurry of for sale signs. Demons divested with each dusty box taped shut. Rebirth rubric written in the white spaces between. Septet sunsets later. Summon siren on the cell. Ethan's number. A beacon in the contacts. Lax. ABBA in the abstract. No inferno ignited. Assay absolution. Pure as the print. Ingress imminent. Dawn train. James Junction. Full crew. Hope harvest on the horizon. We're coming for the full circle. Pen pinnacle under the vast vaulted glass. Pulse percussion syncing with the platform's thrum. Emergence epic from the silver worm. Ethan James entwined at the elbow egress. Dyad devotees in denim and determination. Solitary scion scanning the crowd like a hawk for home. Equity etched in every step. No fetters forged for the fetal financier who'd flipped lives like properties. Nay. Shatter salvage. Shards swept into something sharper. Dyad descendants' dominion reclaimed in handshakes and half-smiles. Fraternal forge hammered hot in James. Fervor fathomless as the tracks below. Chuckle. Warm. We piled into my old Chevy, rust-bucked faithful, radio crooning Springsteen like an old friend. Thunder Road, as anthem for the miles ahead. Brooklyn Bastion beckoned. Lily legacy in a brownstone bowed by years. Lone lozenge lineage, etched in every creak of the stairs. Colloquy colossus unfolded in the living room, lit by afternoon slant. Cataract crescendo of questions cascading like Niagara. Excoriations eased with explanations edged in empathy. Embraces eternal sealing the seams. Guardian genuflect in the corner armchair, voice velvet with vice. Forgive the phantom fill, the stories stitched from scraps. I was the seamstress, mending what I couldn't make. Hope hibernation thawed slow, curled on the couch like a cat in sun. Then halcyon bloom, Ethan echo across the coffee table, eternity etched in the eye. Kinship keystone slotted home. Assay artifact. Aerials circulated hand to hand like holy relic. Spheres sanctified in shared stairs. The numbers now narrative, binding us tighter than blood alone. Odyssey opulent unfurled in the afterglow. Oracle of ordinary miracles. Adage absorbed in the marrow. Adore aeriform affiliates. The breaths mingling in your air like incense. Apex action immediate. Dispatch dossier to the ones drifted distant. Dial dam bursting with I miss you mantras. Deficits dismantled deliberate pre-dirge. Dirges the reaper hums. Epilogue enigma etched in embers. Enigma endures. Destiny doles out reclamation rent. A rift ripped wide. Subscribe sacrament if souls stirred to the stir. Threads tethering the tribe. You're thrust through the thicket. What fork do you forge? But wait, there's more to this mosaic of mending. Because healing, it's not linear like a subway line with stops and transfers. It's a labyrinth laced with dead ends and detours. Loops laced with laughter amid the lacerations that leave you limping but alive. Chuckle warmly. Post-reunion, Ethan and I. Awkward alchemy at first. Bubbling over diner eggs in some Jersey turnpike trap where the hash browns are always crispy and the coffee black as midnight regrets. Him grilling me on dad lore with that earnest tilt. Did she sing to us in the womb? Lullabies soft, or Dylan ragged. James tagged along uninvited at first. Third wheel turned tripod sturdy, sharing his slice of the saga over seconds of sausage. First bike, wobbly wheels on Maple's macadam. Me running ragged behind. Pedal harder, champ. The wind's got your back. Till you wobbled into independence. Scraped Brooklyn brownstone bowed under the weight of winters past. Her mom, foster fortress incarnate, fortifying the frame from the kitchenette. Wiry woman with laugh lines like lightning scars, zigzagging her cheeks. Brewing tea strong as her resolve. Chamomile laced with chamomile calm. And a dash of door ajar on our knock. Hope haloed in hallway lights slanting through dust motes like spotlights on a stage. 35 and fierce. Artist's atelier aura, clinging like paint splatters on overalls. Canvases chaotic with color storms raging across easels. Blues bleeding into bruised purples like bruises on the soul. At the sight of her, Sarah's echo amplified tenfold. Blue coat hung like a relic on the coat rack by the door, faded but faithful. Eyes ice but ignited with an inner forge. Sketching shadows into light. You, she breathed. Docs devoured in a glance. Fingers flying over the pages like reading Braille for the newly sighted. The map Mom muttered in fevers. The myth made manifest. Cascades commenced unbidden. Her tale's torrent pouring forth like pent-up rain. Foster flotsam from the first flood. Always sketching sisters unseen in the margins of library books borrowed and never returned. Knew deep in the bone I wasn't solo. just severed. Ethan entrance then? Eclipsed by the sheer symmetry. Mirrors meld across the room. Hands hover hesitant at first, then harbor in a clasp that clicked, like puzzle pieces long lost. Twin flame, he murmured. Foreheads fusing in forehead-to-forehead communion. Breaths sinking like metronomes reset. That night, Nonet narratives wove nocturnal nebula under the hum of a single lamp. Stars of stories stitching scars with silver thread. Her foster flings and foster falls. His suburban safaris and secret doubts. My siren songs of survival. James's quiet confessions over decaf. Dawn found us frayed but fused. Coffee cold but connections cauterized. Months morphed into milestones. Maple migrates for weekend warriors. Manhattan melds in museums, where echoes of Sarah's love for Van Gogh's swirling skies hung heavy. Me, mentorship maiden voyage uncharted. Ethan's garage tinkering sessions under fluorescent flicker. Fix that carburetor like you fixed us, Dad. Twist till it turns. No half measures. Grease monkey mantras passed like torches. Hope's gallery soirees in Soho lofts. Paint the pain pretty, kid. Sarah's style. James, Junta joined without question. Barbecues bridging boroughs with burgers flipped on communal grills. His wife, late to the legacy but lore lingering like perfume on a letter invoked in toasts raised to the absent. To Ellen, queen of the quiet fixes, the glue in our gaffs. Broker, buried deep in a cold... No cheers, just a nod to the scales tipping silent. Yet echoes endure, faint but faithful. Nights when the city's hush presses close, I trace that yellow scrap under lamplight. Faded but fierce as the first fire. Sarah's swan song, not surrender to the shadows, but salvation sung soft. A lullaby for the lost. Teaches this hard-won truth. Time's thief, pilfering pockets and promises. But truth, treasure trove unearthed. Gems glinting in the grit. Hoard it close. Herald it loud. Share the map before the ink fades. So, souls synced to this finale's faint glow. Finale fast fractured fair. Fortune forges forfeiture fissure in the forge. Yet fray at foreigner's facade fragile. Fabricated felicity on foundations false. Subscribe, sacrament, if soul stirred to the stirrings. Threads tethering us tighter in the tapestry. Your trajectory through the thorns. What fork forged in fire do you favor?